This was from Arkham. I think it was the story broke over the last weekend. So it's a little bit old, but I think it's worthwhile. And I think it got missed in the news cycle since it happened over the weekend. Arkham is a explorer page, and they also have like this sleuthing element where people can like do a lot of stuff on chain and look for things. And it's a pretty awesome resource. And they broke the address behind a $3.5 billion Bitcoin heist for the Lubian Bitcoin mining pool. It was a mining pool that had facilities in China and Iran. And all this heist took place in December of 2020, $3.5 billion at the time. And now it's worth $14.5 billion. So with all these Bitcoin heists, like these become some of the largest heists in history. Almost every time we have one of them break. I think the Bitfinex one was the previous largest heist to be talked about, which was also a sizable amount of Bitcoin, but 127,000 Bitcoin was stolen back in December 2020. Now, Lubian has some nice images we'll throw up on screen here, kind of showing what's happening, but basically this pool was hacked and all the participants lost all their Bitcoin. Now, the pool still has $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. We've got some more images up here. You can see Lubian just kind of rolling along through 2020, and then all of a sudden it's not hashing anymore, as it tends to happen with these things. Matt, I know you have some data, so I'm going to throw that up on screen here now. But it's just interesting to go back in the book and look at some of these early artifacts of Bitcoin mining. And then for this one, this is a lot of Bitcoin, and who knows exactly what happens with this. Again, Arkham just kind of found the address and are now documenting it. As happens with a lot of these hacks and exchanges, we can now just kind of monitor what's happening. And if people start trying to withdraw or start doing mixing services with these large coin allocations, then these Explorer pages give the optionality for law enforcement to track down who is doing what with it. This is a lot of the way that we get the stuff from North Korean hackers to be found. But Matt, tell us about this image that you made for us.
Yeah, this is from a report I did a couple of years ago about the history of block production and tied to different pools. And it just looks at a lot of Bitcoin mining pools historically have reused addresses. And there's been some companies that have identified which ones belong to which over time. So you could track the Coinbase transactions and see who's won blocks over time. And then as well in the, kind of op return, there's a time where a lot of mining pools would self-label themselves. So I did an analysis a couple years ago. You guys were interested in Lubian, so I dug up an old Excel sheet. This is what I got. It looks like they peaked at a bit over 5% of blocks produced in a difficulty period back in April 2020. My question with this story is I wonder how they got hacked, whether their keys were kind of floating out there on a database or was kind of seized from someone personally not having effective security procedures. But I mean, this is a big chunk of coins, and you don't hear about this much. I think this actually would have been a much bigger story if we were in kind of bear market times and there was less interest in the financial market side of things with these treasury companies and ETF flows and anything that's driving price, because this is a lot of coins that is being moved, and I think it raises more questions than answers. What do you guys think?
They were hacked.
I mean, voting accident, you think?
It is one theory, right? I think that you could make an argument that maybe this was somehow orchestrated. Nothing to substantiate that, right? But you do have to wonder, you have over 100,000 Bitcoin and a hot wallet that is super vulnerable. Things happen, but you never know. But the biggest question I have too, not just how did the Bitcoin get quote stolen end quote allegedly, how did they get all the Bitcoin to begin with? Because there's no way that they mined. What you said, 130,000 Bitcoin was roughly how much was stolen. They did not mine that much Bitcoin over the 6 months, 8 month time that they were online, right? And notwithstanding the fact that they would have to pay out pool participants. Now, this is probably, maybe this is just a giant Chinese mining farm that had their own pool. I don't know anything about Lubian. I don't know how they were structured, but I do wonder where all that Bitcoin came from. It had to have been rolled over from something else, because they couldn't have just mined all of that themselves.
Seems like a good block space follow-up piece in the future. I think that one thing I'll leave you guys with is this is about the fifth the size of MicroStrategy's entire Bitcoin holdings, right? 130,000 Bitcoin. MicroStrategy has, I think, over 500,000 coins at this point. So there's a lot of these old addresses with tons of Bitcoin on them, whether they be Bitcoin whales like the Galaxy Digital big sale story we had the other week, or stories like this. There's a lot of Bitcoins still out there. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the episodes we put out. Also, check us out on Spotify, Apple, and elsewhere.